Why don't we go ahead and get started with intros? Do you want to start, David? I'll just go down the line.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Benoit, Vice President at Art and Science. We're a boutique marketing agency focusing on strategy, talent management, activations, you name it, where I'm currently helping the XFL with their inaugural season, as well as Verizon Wireless is my other main client managing their sport partnerships.
Hey everyone, I'm Darnell Briscoe. I'm the EVP and Head of Growth at Bond. We're an entertainment marketing agency here in Hollywood. I'm focusing a lot on films and series and games wherever they live. I'm working kind of as a full-service integrated agency model.
And I'm Shelby Powell. I'm Vice President of Global Marketing for the Dolls portfolio at Mattel. So I oversee a variety of our brands in the fashion doll and small doll category, a lot are related to entertainment. Some are licensed, like Disney and Trolls. Some are our own IP, but all have a great entertainment kind of platform. And then prior to that, for 11 years, worked for Barbie and specifically running partnerships for the brand.
Hi, I'm Tulani Elisa. I'm Global Lead at Prime Video for Social and Editorial, and we make some of your favorite shows and do a lot of connectivity over social, identifying the right audiences for each title, and really looking to connect with fans and followers.
Great, thank you. So I'm excited to have this conversation today because I think being brand marketers and brand experts, it's such a multifaceted job, and there's so many different touch points, and it's evolving so rapidly. I know so much of the industry is evolving, but as we move beyond just advertising, delivering messaging to consumers and more into a two-way dialogue with consumers, there's so much opportunity. So why don't we start with where I think all marketing starts today, which is social media. And I think that one of the most interesting things that's happened in social in recent years has been the ability for brands to really utilize that platform to generate expressions of fan love. And I think it's very timely for us to talk about this because we were just coming off of a very successful week of brand love expression on social. So would love to hear, Darnell, you talk a little bit about what happened this week vis-a-vis Barbie.
Yeah, so if you were on the internet this last week, you probably saw some of the stuff around Barbie. We were really fortunate to work with our partners at Warner Brothers, thinking about how do we really capitalize on important marketing beats. The trailer is so important, the poster is so important, the key art, the character posters, really utilizing the talent. There's a really big talent play. That was a huge strength for this campaign. But how do we think about timing and flighting, and how do we make sure that we really own a key moment? And one of the ways that we did that, and really one of the keys for social, is the ability to use great IP to allow fans to say something about themselves, to have something that's personal, to have something that allows them to express themselves and express love for that IP potentially. And we were able to do that through that poster generator that we created last week that allowed fans to insert themselves really easily through just taking a selfie or uploading a photo and mask themselves out, and then have kind of a short expression that really allowed them to say whatever they wanted. I mean, we saw everything from other brands sharing. Using the format as a way to share exciting things that they had coming up. We even had an interview this week with someone who had used the Barbie generator using the caption, "This Barbie is open for work and looking for their next job." And we saw that as we were kind of doing our aggregation of kind of the reach. And so it was really cool to find the unique and interesting ways to allow people to kind of express themselves however they wanted, and really tie it all back to this larger Barbie moment.
And Talani, I think that Amazon's so interesting because you have the larger brand of Amazon, you have your IP, and then you have the talent that you're working with, and many of them have their own brands. Would love to hear how you approach working across those different lanes and how you're working on fan love and fan expression in today's day and age.
Yeah, I think that, more and more people are seeing themselves or things that they really love or are passionate about in television. And a great example of that for us is Daisy Jones the Sixth, probably. We just had that come out, and amazing show based off of a book with a fictional band that we made a real album for and sold, and that was topping the charts. And then the show really took off as well, along with a partnership with Free People that yielded a full 70s style collection. And what it really speaks to is reaching your audience across platforms and really bringing it all back to, what our point is having people watch and love and enjoy and really embrace the show, but saying, we see you. There's so many people that identify, like, think of movies like, I don't know, Almost Famous or whatever, with the kind of like 70s style and like wanting to feel and look and listen to so many of those things. And so being able to tap into that very obvious and like relevant feeling and look and moment that people have was a really great way to do that. And I think, kind of like what Darnell was saying is that you want to just tap into people where they are at the moment. And bring them, into your space, but find out where they are too. And so when you're able to make yourself into a Barbie meme, or you're able to use it to express like how you're feeling or what you need at the moment, or you're able to like wear the outfits that someone that you loved or a show that you loved had on it, those are really big for people. And it takes it from a level of, we're just going to sell this one thing to you and you have to do it, to like, we're looking at you as a whole person and the things that you find fun and the things you want to express and the way you want to do that.
And moving out of social media and into IRL, I think that live events, location-based entertainment is another lane where brands are really looking to connect with consumers and cut through clutter. And I don't think that a sector has done a better job of that than sports. So would love to hear, David, you talk a little bit about the XFL and the work that you do around brands and connecting with consumers through that space.
Yeah, no. So I think when you really think about like live sports, the demise of live sports and events in general has been it's essentially what people initially thought is that much less people would be going to games. The in-home experience would be better. I know you got multiple TVs, you can sit on your couch, and the fact of the matter is that just while that is a benefit for some, the fact is that there are still thousands and millions of people who are going to sporting events. They want to connect with other people, the other fans. They want to talk trash to their opponents, and that's never going away. And I think, and one thing that taught us more than anything that that's true is the pandemic. At the time, at the peak of the pandemic, the NBA and many other leagues were, there were no fans, and people felt that, right? Like you can kind of feel the hollowness. And so as soon as the doors opened up again, people were rushing back to the stadiums. And I think that is representative of the impact sports and live events in general have. That's never going away. And so I think brands realized that while they did what they had to do to kind of deal with the times of the pandemic, once the doors opened again, they doubled down. And the XFL is a really big part of kind of making sure that fans feel appreciated. The work that we do at Art and Science on behalf of the XFL is just making sure that every fan, whenever they engage the XFL brand, particularly in person, that they're having an enjoyable time. And I think that the big thing that really strikes is that the league doesn't pretend to be the NFL. It's the XFL. It really leans into we get it. Some of you guys want to strive to be in the NFL, and we want to support that. But in the meantime, we want you to really work hard here. And the fans, this is a great brand of football. It's professional football. And so that's what the XFL really leans into. And we choose sponsors that kind of lean into that as well. Engagement, concourse engagement will always be key. You know, I was just talking with a friend of mine before we came here. Nothing drives me and other activation marketers crazy when you have a partner that refuses to actually activate. Like, all they do is signage. And it's like, people don't know what your product is if all they do is just see the logo out in the outfield or on center court or whatever the case may be. So, you know, we really look for partners who bring something to the table from an engagement standpoint, whether it's, you know, games and giving products away and flyaway experiences, whatever the case may be. So really working with our sponsors to give the best possible experience they can provide the consumer is really our mainstay in the XFL, right? Like, it's an entertainment product. We want to make sure that as we finish this season, that people remember it and they come back. And the same thing for the sponsors. You know, making sure they get their investments worth, value adds with the you know, as much as we can add to what they've already committed to financially, to make sure that they come back. So, yeah, I think, you know, live events will always be a part of who we are as a society. That's here, that's globally. It's never going away. I think things like social media and digital will certainly be an integrated part, but there's just nothing about seeing Derek Jeter's 3,000th home run behind home plate at Yankee Stadium, you know? You can't replicate the feeling that I actually witnessed that, by the way. Like, that was awesome. And just like seeing that and the fans and everybody hugging, people you don't even know. You can't really do that in your living room. You know, if somebody that you don't know is in your living room, you got bigger questions. But yeah, no, so live events, very important. The XFL really leans into that, and it's here to stay.
And Shelby, we've talked about Barbie already once here because of the movie, but I think one thing that we as brand marketers know is you don't have the launch pad for a movie like that without a brand already having a lot of resonance. So would love to hear you talk a little bit about some of the work you've done specifically in the co-branding and custom collection space. I know Talani was just talking about with Daisy Jones working with Free People, but would love to hear you talk about what you were able to do at Mattel.
Yeah, and I think also even related to layered storytelling, right, in terms of how brands show up in terms of passion points for their fans to allow that self-expression. So what we just did last year is Barbie and Balmain partnered together on a multi-tiered collection, an expression of both brands. So we looked at what was iconic about Barbie. The Balmain team loved sort of looking at her packaging. They took the Labyrinth of Balmain and they really kind of created a really cool collection that definitely expressed what Barbie stood for and also what Balmain stood for. And we came out with a global capsule collection, about 58 pieces of both apparel, accessories for men and women. Olivier Rousting, who's the head of Balmain, was very into this idea of gender fluid styling. So definitely we're very focused on what that meant from a campaign perspective and look and feel. And then we took stuff and kind of blended it from the physical as well as the digital, and that we had models in the campaign. But we also had Barbie created into avatars who could then model the clothing. So it got a little bit meta, and then really meta when we actually introduced the brand's first NFT. So we launched 3 digital art pieces to collect, so NFTs, that were of the Barbie avatars wearing the Balmain collection. They were one of one, so there was bidding on them. And then the winner of each of those 3 would actually get a physical Barbie scale look of the pieces from the Balmain collection. So kind of really ran the gamut in terms of layered approach to talking about the product, to reaching fans. There was some amazing retail expressions as well, especially with Neiman Marcus. They did a massive pop-up of great success, and in general, just so much fan love. We keep that Barbie brand going. She's almost 65 years old, but we like to keep her at the top of her game, and a lot of it is to do these kind of unexpected partnerships and put these pieces of expression out there.
And for the next couple questions, would love to open up to the panel. We are all seeing Gen Z is starting to get older. I think that the oldest Gen Alpha are already reaching the age of 13, which is amazing and makes you feel terribly old. But would love to hear from some of the different panelists just thinking about those generational differences and the impacts that has on how brands think about the way that they relate to the consumer, and how that's changed how your brands have thought about that.
I can start if it's helpful. So, I think a couple of things for us. Obviously, we feel like every generation keeps pushing us to be better product creators, product marketers, and I feel like it started really for Barbie specifically around focusing on empowerment, and this was years ago, so this is still with the other generations, and Gen Z has pushed that, but Barbie's purpose is to inspire the limitless potential in every girl. But a lot of times now what we talk about is that empowerment is almost table stakes, right? That's expected, and so what now is really pushing us forward is really about representation. And so that comes across in terms of what's happening with characters in our content, what's happening with characters in our products. So Monster High, for example, we just relaunched that property last year. We have both animated content and we also have live action content with Nickelodeon. We are nominated for a GLAAD Award with our live action. Frankie, one of our characters, is a gender non-binary character that associates with they. We have characters with autism. So we really try and push the boundaries in terms of making sure that everyone feels that they are seen by a brand, and both what shows up from content and product from marketing. And a lot of that comes, again, from what we know these generations are made up of and how they want to talk, and how they want to be spoken to by brands.
I'll follow. I think what's interesting is for most of us in this room, like we're the last generation where we can say we were like pre-internet and then post-internet. And I think that really plays a role when you think about how we were used to being marketed to versus now. So I think that the number one thing that whenever I talk to my clients is customer first, consumer first. What is it does that individual want, right? It's not so much that we all think and act and talk the same way, but we have so many different kinds of options now that you have to think that every person is an individual. And that just wasn't the case pre-internet. We just didn't have as much information to really like spark interest in the other areas. And for me, particularly in sports, look at baseball. Like they have a pitch clock now. And their games are faster. Why? Because they want to get younger. They want to attract younger fans. And younger fans don't care to watch a guy play with his jockstrap, mess with his glove, and then swing a bat. But it also gives them more opportunities to engage digital stuff, whether MLB has a great app that they can look at analytics, things like that. That's the reason to speed up the game and give people multiple touch points, which just wasn't the case, pre-internet, so to speak. So for me, whenever I consult some of my clients, I very much try to put them in the headspace of their target audience and say, person A is not the same as B, as C, et cetera. So you really have to think being as customizable as possible.
Yeah, the big buzzword for a long time was authenticity. The work has to be authentic. The messaging has to be authentic. And to piggyback on that, it really becomes about acknowledging and finding multiple entry points, because people are multifaceted, people are multidimensional, people aren't just one thing. And so you can look at affinities and you can look at demographics and you can look at regions and all of those things matter, but also know that the cross-section and the Venn diagrams are just getting messier and messier and more blurred, and there's lots of fragmentations. This is me, and this is also me, and this is also me, and I might be interested in that too soon. And so the ability, to see yourself and to have accessibility more so than authenticity, I think becomes what wins the day.
What I love about this younger generation and how they consume content is that they want quality, but they don't want glossy. So the way that we might have been used to it, seeing marketing of things always having to be glossy and perfect, they're not really looking for that. Like everyone on the panel said, it's the authenticity, but it's also, because they grew up with social media and on the internet, they want to watch people's days. They want to see behind the scenes. They want to know how everything is made. They've had grown up with a lot of access to kind of the world in a very different way. And so it really is interesting when we think about campaigns of everything doesn't have to be a glossy piece of key art or a glossy image of something, but how do we, talk to them in the way that they're speaking, or show them behind the scenes content, or show them one-off pictures, or take Polaroids, or have things that feel a little grittier and a little more in the moment. And I think that it changes the way that you're marketing almost anything, but especially entertainment, because you're not really pushing for them to see a plastic version of a show. You really want them to see what went into it, what the actors felt, how they relate to each other, what the relationships were like, what the behind the scenes looked like, and really bringing that to life for them. And it's a hard place to really live in, right? Like, we're in a time where meme pages that are super, super random are doing the best, right? So we have, a campaign that we're running now, even for the show Swarm, and the page, when we were working on it and working with talent, it was really about, like, how do we both make this about the show, but also bring in kind of the random memes and the fun things that the show really encapsulates, because it focuses on social and it's having these interesting and relevant conversations. And so I think, the greatest part about this generation is really knowing that what that authenticity means is sometimes being a little more random, less calculated, less focused on being perfect, and more focused on, like, how can we make this a little bit weirder? And I think that's awesome.
So we're talking about some pretty lofty, right, like, ideals here, and we're also talking about campaigns that are holistic, often multi-channel. So would love to hear each of you talk a little bit about how do you measure success and the impact that you're having when you're navigating those traits in a campaign.
All right, we'll keep the order going. For us, it's definitely a mix, I would say, in terms of metrics. We are definitely big on impact, and impact means conversation. So we do pay a lot of attention to press impressions and to media pickup and stories. The ultimate goal is for it to feel like surround sound. And usually when there's a decent amount of press talking about something, it starts there. Example now then of move into the Barbie meme generator for the movie poster kind of took a life of its own. That obviously is for us also like the ultimate goal of just having people then kind of continue that organic conversation. But it definitely for us starts with conversation and press. And then because we are a product company, sales are important. So we do pay attention to then what's happening for if there's a literal product that's attached to that program, what is the sell-through going on there? But also, is there a halo to the brand at large? On our product, especially with Barbie, but a lot of the doll brands, we talk to a variety of audiences. Kids usually are who the product ends up in the hands of. We have to talk to parents as purchasers, and also society in general, who does like to talk specifically about Barbie a lot and judge her a lot. And so we like to make sure that they too are tracking to what we are tracking to as a brand and the stories that we're trying to tell.
I think, being at an agency, you want to make sure you understand, like, what's important to your clients, right? Like, what are their KPIs and helping them achieve that. My one major client for me is Verizon, and, putting it bluntly, like, they want people to use their services, whether that's their cell phones or internet. So switching, seeing how many people switch from competitors to Verizon is a big part of what they do. Just being very cut and dry. That matters. It is the end goal, but I think a way that we kind of piecemeal how do we get that is we certainly listen to consumer sentiments, right? Analytics, seeing what people are saying about Verizon, whether they are the more affordable brand or, superior in terms of network, things like that. And then ultimately, we also, how we help them get to their KPIs and measure it is providing as many use cases to their consumers as possible, right? We talked about this in the previous question, but because there's so many people who are multifaceted and different things are important to them, that's one approach that we really push for them is, show this person what matters to them. If you're a gamer, making sure you have a strong internet connection versus a mom who has kids that are playing all types of sports, making sure you have strong cell phone service that you can get in touch with them. So being able to speak to those user cases is what really helps them sort of improve their sentiment and hopefully improves their switching. So money will certainly drive a lot of what a lot of brands do. My clients are not any different, but I think for us, we just try to like piecemeal and sort of reverse engineer it. And similarly with the XFL, attendance, that's important. We want people in the stadiums watching the games, spending money at concessions. Those are very measurable things. But I think what we try to do is just make sure we understand what people are saying about those brands. And if we think we need to change the messaging a little bit, we attempt to do that. And then whatever they do enjoy, we just lean into it as heavy as possible. So that's pretty much it. As an agency, it's a little bit different because I said you kind of have to be a chameleon and put yourself in your client's seat. But they appreciate that because we can kind of talk their language and really make sure that they're hitting sort of all their goals that they're looking for.
Yeah, sentiment's a big one for sure, and the way that drives dialogue and conversation. 1 million views or 100 million views. 100 million views and I loved it versus 10 million views and I hated it are very different conversations. And really important to measure. And then I think discoverability, especially in entertainment, to your point on the agency side, it's we have to think about our clients' KPIs. But in this direct-to-consumer age, not only in entertainment, but broadly, the idea that any night can be premiere night for someone is really interesting. I mean, the fact that, we were a season and a half in and a ton of awards won into Ted Lasso, and people were like, I don't know about this show. Or people in Succession, which is everywhere right now, and people probably pick that up towards the end of season 2 or early season 3. This idea that I can watch what I want, when I want, for how long I want, wherever I want. And so the ability to be really in tune, to listen, to understand where opportunities come from, and then to be there to serve things up because it really has the accessibility of content has really commoditized the value of entertainment properties. And so you really want to be more cognizant about the long tail and about the ability for people to have peaks over time in different groups to build and to join the fandom at different points along the journey.
I would probably say the quantitative goals for entertainment and social are pretty obvious. I think for me, the qualitative of, finding that brand affinity, loyalty, love, making sure we're, breaking into the zeitgeist conversations, making sure that, it's really resonating. It's a really, Darnell was saying, it's a very crowded entertainment space. You have so many options and people get these like panic attacks of like, which show do I choose? What app do I go on? And being able to be a place that has that like really gets to a solution for a customer is so important. And so shows, yes, you want people to love them, you want them to talk about them and really break through in conversation, but also, for Prime Video, we're a place that you can get to all the other apps you need to get to on Prime Video, and not even to sound advertising, but like it really is, making itself a hub for things that answers a consumer question of like where to start. And so I think, in terms of goals, it's interesting to think about the ones that aren't attached to all the data points we work with every day, but how are people, if someone talks about your brand, what is associated, what words are associated with that, what feelings do they, is it something where they're like, oh, I can just go there and do this, or I saw that show and it made me feel this. And we're really seeing that across everything in entertainment, is that people want to feel seen, as others have said, but also really feel like it's something new, it's something different, something provocative. So I think a lot of what I like to measure through seeing what conversations are and seeing what reactions are is how we're making people feel, because the numbers are always going to be there and we can always measure those. So I think that's important.
We have a lot of students and people that are early mid-career here. Would love to hear each of you talk a little bit about what skills make up a good brand marketer, and also what you're looking for when you're hiring. I think that's always an interesting question because for each of us, we have a different role and are at different kinds of companies.
Okay, I'll kick us off. Yeah, we hire a lot. There's a few things, but the first is we look for doers. That becomes really, really important. The cell phone changed everything, right? The ability it lowered the barrier of entry. When someone says like, I want to be an editor, I say, great, like, point me to your YouTube. Like, I want to see the 100 videos you've edited over the last handful of months. And when they say I haven't, I ask why. And that becomes a really important question because the tools are there now. Before, it was really hard to have access to footage, to have access to editing tools, to not be able to watch a YouTube video to learn how to do something. And so for students that are here, from our most entry level, our support staff who are transitioning into roles and they're reading scripts while they're waiting to answer phones and breaking things down and getting into the habit of doing, to one of our founders who is a few years away from retiring and doesn't need to build a single comp if he ever wanted to. But the one that's hanging up in my daughter's bedroom right now is the brand new one for The Little Mermaid from Disney. And he made that himself because he was like, you know what? I want to throw down on this. I want to still do, even though I'm the ECD here. And so for us, when we think about who we want to hire and be a good entertainment marketer, we want people who are in it on the platforms. We talk a lot about like what platforms do you spend your time on? What campaigns are you inspired by? What things non-entertainment are you interested in on social? We want to make sure people are active as artists or as brand marketers, and we want to make sure that people are doers.
I'll start. I think so. When you think about hiring, I think for whatever the company it is that you work for or I work for, what's on the job description, that's going to be there, right? Like hard work, all of that, that's going to be there. We want the experience. I think for me personally, though, if I'm hiring someone under my team, the biggest thing that resonates with me is authenticity. I know we've all used that word quite a bit, but I think that really matters in the workforce. You guys are very fortunate to grow up in an era where information is at your fingertips, but also gives you the ability to understand that you don't have to be what someone else tells you to be. One of my biggest things is if I connect with a young person on LinkedIn, I don't tell that person like, you should really follow up or anything like that. It's like, do whatever makes you feel good. If you feel like when you were speaking with me, it wasn't a great connection, don't feel like you have to email me and set up coffee, and now I'm sitting here talking with you for 20 minutes when neither one of us want to be here. So for me, it's authenticity. Be your best self. Be your most authentic self. Don't force it. I cut my teeth in New York City for 10 years, and earlier part of my career, like I found myself forcing a lot of relationships, and there was some benefit to that. But as I got older, I realized that I didn't have to do that anymore. And you guys are fortunate where you don't have to really do that now. So to me, that's the biggest thing. Even things to, how you present yourself, right? Like obviously you could tell I have dreadlocks 10, 15 years ago, like that wouldn't have been allowed. And I remembered finding myself being really frustrated with that. Like, I'm still a professional. I'm great at what I do. My appearance isn't bad. It's just not something you're used to. And you guys are very fortunate where you live in an era where you can be and look whatever way you want. So for me, when I'm hiring someone, I want to feel that authenticity. I don't want to talk to somebody that's giving me a script. Here's question A and B and blah. I hate that. I want to know that I understand who you are as an individual, and that's the best feeling that I have on how and who I choose to hire.
I'd say for me, well, one, if you're talking about skills, I know that everyone does this, I think, but just having really strong writing skills is starting to become very underrated because of how we communicate in tweets and posts, and it's been my life for a very long time, so I get it, but it's so important. So if you don't feel confident in writing something, and obviously I work at Amazon, so we write a lot of things, really get yourself to the place that you feel that. And the reason is obviously, for marketing at all, it's super important. But when you're in social, the writing of it means that you're finding ways to be creative. You're taking on new personas with every new title or every new campaign, and you really need to be able to adapt your writing and the way you're presenting for a client or for your own company, and having those writing skills, I think, are really important. And for me, with hiring and the people I really spark to that I either hire that work at our company is really it sounds so memey, but humble and hungry. How do you, yes, there are a lot of things that and can do and can learn and edit by yourself and execute, but also knowing there's a lot of things you maybe don't know and that you're willing to learn and ask about, and know that that doesn't mean you're not good enough or you won't learn it, but that there's a reason that there's people in these positions. And I think the hungry part complements it, because it doesn't also mean, we see a lot today, people are not maybe working as many years to get higher up in positions. And I don't think that's a bad thing, right? But I do think those people that are making those changes quickly and are seeing that success have that humble part, because they're willing to put their head down and do the work while staying hungry for the newest ideas, have their finger on the pulse of what's going on, and really being able to both be open to what they don't know and be excited to introduce people to the things that they might have a different kind of insight on because of their age or where they are in their career.
I mean, I can close this out with to say I am an Anderson alum, so I've been in the seats that you guys have been, and I was a career switcher too. So I was a commercial banker before I came to Anderson, and I got into marketing, and I literally was laser focused to get into marketing, and I was laser focused to go work for Barbie. And that's what I did, and I did that because I was passionate about it, and I took some risks. I actually ended up getting a full-time job offer instead of being able to intern in the summer between my first and second year of school. And so I worked full-time and I did school full-time my second year, and I still graduated on time. I cried a lot, but it was worth it. But to this idea of, I knew it was what I wanted to do, I knew it was where I wanted to be, and so I was gonna put in the hard work for it. And so literally in all these conversations, right, it's the passion. It's like, if you're passionate, then you're probably doing stuff on the side to show your editing skills. And so it is looking for those people who are gonna show up every day. Our jobs are not easy. You spend a lot of time at your job. And so you want people who are excited to be there, and they're excited to do some of the more mundane financial, maybe not as sexy stuff. And then they're kind of stoked to do some of the sexy stuff too. And being in marketing, I think you get a really nice balance of both, but being able to appreciate how exciting it is that we either work in entertainment or we work in physical product that you're selling and making a difference in people's lives, I think will just enrich you as a person to really enjoy what you do. And I want to be around people who are happy and thriving like that.
On that note, I think that closes us out. Thanks, everybody. I think this has been a really great conversation, and thank you all for being here.